Go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another edition of the podcast. I'm your co-host, M2 Dave. I'm here with my co-hosts, Tom, Brady, Crimson, returning guest, King Jr. Say hi, everybody, please.
What's up,
What's up,
everyone?
everyone?
Good to have
Yo, yo,
everybody
what
back.
up?
Yo, it's good to have everybody back. So, I usually never ask a question and answer it, but how do you guys feel about this patch? What is it, 7, 8 days ago, maybe 8.5, depending what region you're in. We received Quan Chi, the latest DLC, and we got a patch. I am very, very impressed by this patch because it did what most, at least in the inner high level player circle, what people have been asking for. They gave us actual buffs for the cameos. I'm talking Sonya, I'm talking Mortaro, who like has crazy pressure right now. I'm talking Darius, maybe to a slightly lesser extent. We've been blowing up NRS in this podcast most of the time, but to me personally, I'm really, really liking. Not to mention that they have buffed other cameos like Sub Zero, who was already good, and Tremor. I am very, very impressed, and I would like to see the same thing with the characters as well at some point. Um, Crimson, am I right or wrong on this?
I agree. This has been actually a really good couple weeks. Between the tournaments,
And another
maybe.
side question, sorry, has this been the best batch that we have received for this NRS game like in the past maybe 5, 6 years?
I don't
Or am
know.
I
I'll tell you as soon
totally-
as you can do a combat league set without a desaying. So as soon as that
Well,
happens, then
okay, look. We take the positive with the negatives, right? And there's plenty of negatives, and trust me, I have stuff to rant about Quan Chi. But I think just you have to give them credit. Look, we have been blowing them up, and rightfully so. But what we asked actually happened, and they buffed. This game is so much more fun to play now. It's so much more enjoyable to watch because now you just don't see, oh, Kung Lao, look, now he's using it. Now she's using it. Now they're using it. Sorry, Crimson, finish your point. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so a couple things happened that I've been talking about for maybe 2, 3 weeks now, right? First of all, it was kind of an exciting couple weeks between the patch and the tournaments and everything. But yeah, so first was I was talking before about how when a cameo does too many things, you got to take one or two of them away, and then it will give people a reason to use other cameos without ruining that cameo completely, right? And that's pretty much what we saw they did with Lao. Lao cameo did too much, right? The plus frames was over the top. And so they took away the plus frames and left everything else. So it's still good for setting up hard to blockables. Still good for augmenting zoning from full screen and stuff like that. But you can no longer use it to get free pressure on block. And I thought that was the perfect way to handle it. They didn't kill it, they didn't drive it into the ground. They left it usable, but now it gives you a reason to use other cameos for certain things. And then combined with a buff, I remember last week I was saying I feel like the game is in a solid place and now they can start to open things up with patches, and that is exactly what they did, right? Like you were talking about Motaro, holy plus frames, right? Like Motaro has what plus 13 now on the fireball. So they gave you a reason to use cameos that you may have been kind of about before, and they were very careful in how they dialed down things that were like at the top of the meta. Even Johnny, right? The Johnny, very subtle Johnny nerfs, losing some damage on the conversions off the parry and things like that. So they're making an effort to tone things down without driving him into the ground, but I mean, the proof's in the pudding. Like maybe we'll talk about the tournaments later, but now you're seeing people having to choose, having all these options. Maybe one person uses 3 or 4 cameos over the course of a tournament and stuff like that. It's much, much, much more fun to play and to watch.
King Jr., you agree or do you disagree with that with Crimson assessment?
So, yeah, most of the patch I agree with. Like the changes were mostly buffs and stuff like that. I do think it's a little weird that they made Motaro, who's perceived as like a anti-zoning slash defensive cameo, and made him more offensive. Like the buffs that they gave him. like the plus 13. A lot of people are using that as a pressure tool now, and with the recharge rate it has, like the buff that it got. So I think it's a little weird they kind of buffed him in that way. Like I would have liked to see like multiple different distances of that tail shot to be more like a zoning character, and they buffed the reflect to where it recovers faster, like the meter builds faster. But I thought it would have been cool if they made like a stationary version of that reflect, so he doesn't move forward with it. But I mean, they still touched it, I guess, which is cool. So I mean, it's cool that they're helping him out. I thought it was a little weird that they made him more rush down, but yeah, most of the other changes I agree with. It's probably my favorite patch that has dropped so far, even though there hasn't been too many yet. But yeah, I think it's overall a good patch, like 9 out of 10.
Tom, what do you think?
Too safe. Um, Too safe. This is just
Even with even with the
too
cameos,
safe.
though?
Still too safe. This in this game, when you mention something that's really strong and dominant, people will say, "Ha ha ha! You must not play assist fighters." That's kind of the excuse for like the over the top stuff. But then when you say, "Okay, well let's let it all be over the top. Let's take it slow. Let's be." No, that's not how assist games work. You can't use the argument of this is how it is, and then let's be a little either be safe or don't be safe. If you're safe, be safe with everybody. If you're not safe with everybody, be safe with nobody. I'm so tired of. I don't know when this started happening, and we'll get into it more with the Quan Chi stuff. But enough, enough of this. We've been waiting since 2019 for them to do something besides let's do the patient. I had to hear for years, give them time. We're now in 2023. When? What year does this stop? Too safe still. Too little. For everything they have going on, it was too little. And no surprise, what season is it? The game works the least. The season of the Sub-Zero season, the game has the most problems. I just feel like it was too little. I like the direction, making more cameos usable. I'm glad they didn't put Kung Lao in the ground, but still too safe. Still too safe. I would like to see, if you look at Motaro versus how he was and how he is now, I wish they would do that with all of them. As opposed to, okay, let's do a little bit, wait and see, a little bit more, wait and see. I truthfully have no idea what the life cycle is. And I could care less what people say Ed Boon says. This would not be the first time something was said that didn't happen. So, as far as I'm concerned, this game could have a 1.5-year life cycle, it could have a 2-year life cycle. They're taking too long. You know, for all we know, we only have 4 pro tournaments. What are they going to wait for all 4 of them to be done? And then, okay, well, let's take the cuffs off when there are no more tournaments ever to be held ever again, unless you're playing online. I think it was too safe. They need to do more. It's not enough. It's not enough.
I do think there, and you and I talked about this privately over the phone, that there needs to be something to this extent, but with the characters, and maybe that's what you're referring to. I think Sub-Zero, Reptile, Rain, uh, possibly Havoc, they need 1 or 2 good changes. Not with the cameos, the character themselves, so they can be more viable. Um, and if they do that, I'm already, I think, impressed. I'm personally, because I was thinking they're just gonna nerf everything. That's what I'm used to based on MK, um, the previous MK11, the previous game. Um, if they can do this with the characters, we'll be very highly impressed. But until I see that, uh, we will have to wait and see, because we know these changes are kind of coming at a very slow pace. And I think that's what earlier you were referring to when you mentioned um, the online, the syncing constantly. When you mentioned to me privately how there's a glitch you can move before the round. Um, but this is the way I see it, and I want all of you to comment. There's certain stuff to be fired up about, and trust me, I will later. Uh, Street Fighter 6 has had plenty of glitches. Capcom fixes them almost immediately. I don't know if you guys play the game, but when Street came out, he had some kind of weird stuff where he um, put a tornado on the screen and it would last on the screen for like 10, 15, 20 seconds and it would just chip you to death. And they literally fixed it almost literally the next day. NRS takes a lot longer. Why? I don't know. Um, but I think Tom, that's what you were referring to, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the Combat League stuff is a real pain. I mean, I saw Foxy playing today, and apparently it is. Are starting to duplicate moving before the round. It's not running rampant right now at this point, but people when they have anonymity and no one knows who you are, they really love to ruin everyone's fun. That's just how people are in general, especially on the internet. But overall, besides the glitches, which are a huge thing, um, they just didn't do enough with the characters. The cameos, okay, I wish they would have done a little bit more with them. The characters are like, again, they cut and paste an MK9 character in the game, and everyone else has to wait their turn. For how long? Who knows, if ever. They're too safe. They are still too safe, and I don't. I have. There's no reason for it. I can't think of a single reason why they would be too safe. If you make a cameo fighter, you can't be too safe. If you want it to be safe, don't make a cameo fighter. It's as simple as that. They are walking two different lines where they want the game to be out of control in one way, but then safe in another. And the two cannot coexist in this game. And that's kind of where the game is right now. And that's really my problem with it.
Does Tom have a point, or is he being critical? Even me, for that matter.
I think it's a little bit of both. There's some points that hold. Like, I mean, we talked about this privately in a phone call, but you know, like the Christmas season is the season where a lot of people go out and buy stuff. So if people are buying the game this Christmas and they're all excited to play, and then they get on Combat League and they get desynced, that's kind of a big deal. So I was telling Tom, I think this must have been really hard to fix if they couldn't get it done before the holidays, because I imagine that was a priority. So whatever is happening internally, there's probably some stuff they need to sort out. However, when it comes to the balancing strategy, I actually like it, and I think it's faster than a lot of other games. Street Fighter 6 came out in the summer, and they're just letting it rock. And we really don't know what the balance strategy is yet for that game. So, they've had to wait, what is it, 6 months now? And people are still playing it out. Here, the game is changing ever so slightly every patch. And I think it's better this way because if you look at the history of every time there's been a patch where they tried to change everything at once, it never works out well. Usually, what we end up with is all of a sudden characters end up, closer to the bottom and characters are closer to the top, and you end up with a similar situation just with different characters in different places. If you think about that last MKX patch, that's basically what happened. So I like this better, and I think the next logical step is, like you were talking about, Dave, to do a character sort of rebalance patch, right? If you look at what we're seeing in tournaments right now, right? Crazy tournament at DreamHack over the weekend, all right? As much as people talk about Ashura, Cage, all these other characters, in the top four, we had like a Havoc, Garrus, Shao, and Ashura. All right, so this is what I meant the other day when I said there are no S plus tier characters in this game. Like the top and bottom are not so far away from each other that good players cannot make top eight with the majority of the cast. However, I think if they keep going the same direction that they're going, it's gonna end up in a really great place. Which means don't destroy Astra and Cage. Maybe take away one or two things that they do, like perhaps reduce some of the plus frames Cage has, maybe take away the plus frames on Astra's projectile, stuff like that, and buff the lowest tier, the reptiles, scorpions, Sub-Zero, the characters that have to work harder than everyone else. And if they do that, I think the game will be in a great place.
Pig just brought up, he said in the stream, please point out the PC version removed the dialogue before Combat League matches and it removed the desyncs. So 100% I would say it's linked to that.
Yes.
He goes on to say the problem is when they added the dialogue and the Wi-Fi filter to Combat League, it broke the code. So on PC, it's almost like they're testing solutions and they removed it and it works fine. Once again, nobody asked them to add these dialogues. I mean, they just do stuff.
I know, but can you explain to the audience who may not be aware? I noticed something we thought you and I.
Okay, yeah. So basically, NRS does what they've always done: do stuff that nobody asked for, and then mask it as, "Hey, we're doing what we're listening to you." So for some reason, they thought it'd be cool to just force feed, like when you pick your characters, they have that character clash. Well, before every match now, they do that character clash and they have dialogue mandatory. Well, if you skip it, it causes desyncs constantly. The problem is the vast majority of players you run into Combat League, they're not pro players. They're just hitting X in between matches. And it's always skipping the dialogue, which is causing the vast majority of desyncs. Now, apparently on PC, they've removed the actual dialogue, and it's removed the problem. Whether they're just, I guess, experimenting with PC, because it's probably easier to add and remove stuff than on a console where you've got to get clearance from Sony and Microsoft, which I understand. Like, they're not able to put a patch out every week on the console. It doesn't work that way. So they're probably testing it on PC before they go ahead and release a fix on the console.
Yeah, fair enough. I remember you saying, explaining to detail. I think that's what people have to understand. Look, I'm just trying to be fair. It's the holiday season, obviously, at least in the Western Hemisphere, Europe. So maybe they don't have the resources, because a lot of people take off during this time, and they're. What I'm trying to say is that the only people who can fix this issue are your netcode engineers, and I'm assume that's probably a limited amount of people in that company, as we probably already know, just based on their past. So that's why Tom was telling me it's probably going to get fixed in mid-January. Is it slow? Hell yeah, it is. But I'm trying to be patient, understanding, because we wanted the Wi-Fi filter that added it. So I'm trying to remain positive, even though I understand. In contrast to Capcom, these things should have been in the game from the get-go, right? Obviously. Franco, your comments on this topic, or any other one that you want to comment
On the desyncs and all that.
Yeah, just like this. Yeah, this whole thing that's just people have been really pissed off about.
Yeah, I haven't been playing too much. Like, I've been on and off. Like, I kind of been not playing as much as people would have guessed, but I just life
It
stuff
does
going
seem
on. But
random, if I may. I've been playing a lot because I've been off for like the past 3-4 days, and it
Yeah.
seems random. Sometimes people skip the cutscenes and it doesn't happen. Sometimes it immediately happens. Like not even a second fight. Like it just happens immediately.
yeah, the few times that I did play, like I was testing out Quan Chi for the first time on ranked after labbing for like 10 minutes. And I was just getting these things like nonstop, and I was just like thinking, is this something on my end? And I checked Twitter, and people are talking about it and stuff, and I'm like, okay, it's probably just a server thing. It definitely is annoying. I luckily haven't been as unlucky to get desynced as I was when I first started playing, but yeah, it's definitely an issue. I see a lot of people talking about it. I'm not sure when they're going to address it, but
the online just like has issues, and I'm sure it's not my connection. Like sometimes it says initializing whatever, initiating match, whatever matchmaking.
oh yeah, it
like
takes a
2
while.
minutes. And sometimes like it searches for a match for like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Honestly,
sometimes my searches take a while too.
it's like what the hell is going on? Like honestly, it's faster to quit the game, restart, and restart it and go back to ranked. What am I doing? Why do I have to do this? It's so weird. Stuff like that It should be like Street Fighter. It should be like you play, you win or lose. Like it should just be like constant. But for some reason, it's not, and I don't think anybody understand why all this is happening. Aside from probably the people who went to school for this, they understand what the hell is going on. But yeah, it can be very, very frustrating. You're trying to learn a new character and you have to deal with, oh, searching for a match for 5 minutes and then it gets stuck. You're trying to cancel, but you can't. Am I the only one? Like, does that happen to everybody else? It's so strange, guys. Like, what the hell is going on? Again, I know the game is rushed, but damn, it's so frustrating to deal with this stuff. Any comments on this before we move on and talk about another subject?
Honestly, I understand the reason why people are upset about it and stuff. I know it'll get fixed, so I'm not too worried about it. I just it's a matter of when, I guess. That's my only thing on it. They're obviously not going to leave it this way. And as far as the unwanted cutscene dialogues between matches, yeah, I definitely disagree with that. And I still hope that Combat League ranked match will be 3 out of 5 one day again.
Well, I highly doubt it, but I do want to remain positive because I think Pig just said it perfectly. I think it's something that will be fixed eventually, probably since NRS and WB probably a little bit later than sooner, but it kind of is what it is. But let's talk about the latest DLC. I want to give a shout out to Shazzy for making me quit Quan Chi before it even began. Um, Before I rant, I would like to refer to people to I think he made an excellent not post. I'm sorry, like makes an excellent video about Quan Chi on his YouTube channel. In fact, it was so good. I immediately went to his Twitch and I subscribed for like 3 6 months. I forget. Um, Before I rant, Crimson, let's have you talk about Quan Chi as a DLC as a character in this game. Go ahead.
Yeah, so maybe like 3 podcasts ago, when we were talking about archetypes and stuff like that, I was saying that one of the places we might see that is in the DLC. So I think it's pretty evident with the strategy of the last 2 DLC. If you look at Omni-Man and Quan Chi, they could not be more different than each other. As far as how good Quan Chi is, I'm really waiting to see him be fully fleshed out. For people to use all the tools that he has, I think people are like 50% of the way there and still working on it. Obvious things, he has potential for good zoning. It's matchup dependent because movement is very good in this game, which means people can close the distance very fast. Also, some people have armor that travels quite a distance, like for example, Johnny Cage. And so sometimes it's hard for him to start playing that game. But theoretically, if he can play it, it's fairly strong. However, up close, it's difficult for him, man. It's a struggle, especially against certain characters that like to stay in your face, like a Johnny Cage or something like that. And once he's in trouble, getting out of it is hard. So if I had to give a hot take, I'd say that he's probably better than people think, but not great. And I asked Combat tonight. He played a set against Scar. He did pretty well. Scar was playing Kenshi. He was playing Quan. When I checked out, it was maybe like 18-9 in Combat's favor or something like that. So I just asked him and said, "What do you think?" And he said, "Yeah, I think Quan's all right. I think he's not horrible. I think he's not great. I think he's somewhere in the middle." And I think that's probably a fair take.
Pig, I'm reading your chat. I mean your post right now, and I think you're full of shit because there's something you have to have in this game, and I believe the game is so universally built about your down one. Then if you don't have it, you like Tweety said, you can't get your turn back, and his down one is punishable by Cage. And yeah, people weren't doing it like the first couple of days, but now they are, even online. The character is incredibly safeguarded. The only other character who's even in the same camp is probably Sub Zero. Everything is a gap, like 2 bar launcher, less health. I mean, you name it, it's in the name. Like he's got it, and some of that stuff is okay. because zoning characters have had less health for a long time, even in Street Fighter, right? They that's what they made that famous. But it's like, why are there so many safeguards? Like, what were you people scared of? Like he's Zod or Freddy or some shit. Like he's not. What are these people doing? This is just insane to me. Besides, I think the zoning is actually very good. It works. But how can you like deprive him of like the basic tools of the game? Two bar launcher, like what? Down one that's 9 frames minus 10. Um in- Horrendous footsies game aside from down four. Again, guys, Tweety described it better than I could because he's a better player. But just go to his channel and check that stuff out. Tom, am I exaggerating or am I being unreasonable?
Once again, too safe with a character. And here's my problem with this. And listen, for years we talk about this stuff and it's dismissed as conspiracy theory. No, it's not this thing that people don't want this or NRS doesn't. Whatever. The truth is, they literally cut and pasted a Mortal Kombat 9 character in the game called Johnny Cage. 8-frame shadow kick. Forward 3 is 9 frames. He has a forward 3-2. Hit confirmable like day 1 MK9. He has his 2-1 overhead string, whatever the command is. He's got one of the same strings, the same knee, the same shadow kick, the same plus frames on jabs and everything. They had no problem literally cut and pasting a typical NRS offensive archetype in the game. But every other archetype but that, let's be safe, Quan Chi, what is the reason for some of this stuff? It's like, I listen to Combat Cast and they're like, we want him to be tricky with overheads and lows. So you punish him by giving him a 2-bar low launcher. Why? Because he has strings with overheads? Then just don't put the damn overheads in the string. I don't understand. They give characters tools that are not very good, they're average at best, and then penalize them for a potential situation that could arise from it that still isn't very good. They're way too safe with him again. His zoning for him to be the way he is, plus his base health. His base health is low. He picks the certain cameos, his base health goes down to 850. Why? He has the same type of base health as like characters like Natara or whatever. He doesn't have any healing or Geras. He has no healing factor whatsoever. Yet his base life is penalized the same as those characters that have healing factors. It makes no sense. In order to justify the way he came out, his zoning would have to be so absurdly powerful that, it's so hard to get near him that if you do, he shouldn't be able to move. And I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. They have no problem doing certain things that they say. People say, well, nobody wants this. Nobody wants X from MK9. Nobody wants X from MKX. Yet I see the same type of situation in Kenshi sandwich situations. That's an MKX situation. Johnny Cage, that's an MK9 situation. They have no problem. They have no problem doing that. None. When they want to make a good character, they know exactly what to do. And they want to make a character bad, they know exactly how to do it. And that's what they did with Quan Chi. And I'm so tired of this, well, it's okay, it's whatever. That's exactly where people want him to do. Because I promise you, if Quan Chi was a powerful zoner, you would literally have to close the doors at NetherRealm Studios. They would riot. I don't understand. So, what does he do? Is he a zoner? Not really. Is he an up-close character? Not really. Is he a real tricky 50-50 character? Not really. What is he? What does he do?
King Junior, what do you have to say? Are we downplaying or are we upplaying or what do you stand on this issue?
I agree with Tom saying, in the sense of if you want to make a zoner, why are you giving him these 50-50s in his strings to it's like you're using it as an excuse to make him I guess not have too strong of zoning or something. I don't know. I think he's definitely he can zone, but I think his weaknesses definitely outweigh his strengths like too much. Like 900 health, no healing factor, the worst down one in the game, the slowest standing jab, gaps in 1-2, 2-1, back 3-4, um, no good mid string. His 4-2-1's the only mid string he has, but it's minus 16 on block on the second hit. It's not confirmable, and you can't really use cameos into it like cameo launchers. Sometimes they whiff on hit because it like pushes you away on hit. So he's definitely limited up close, and I really don't think his zoning's all that because he can only do the like his best projectile is the purple straight skulls, and even then you can kind of just easily floss block those, and then he's not building meter, he's not doing chip. Um, and his meter burn portal, it's cool, but it sucks because like you know how you can move the portal by holding the 3 input and it'll like move forward or back depending on where you want to place it.
Yeah, you can move it around, correct?
So that meter burn portal in theory would be really helpful if you didn't have to like control it. Like it should by default like just follow the opponent to push them away. But since you have to hold the 3 input to move it where you want, unless you're blocking, you're gonna move with the portal. So it kind of makes it pointless in my opinion to even use it, and it doesn't even last that long. It lasts for like a second and a half or 2 seconds or something, and then it goes away. It's like a waste of a bar. Like it's a cool tool in theory, but it's with how it is right now, I don't think it's that useful. And like his skull trap, it's way too slow. The meterless one doesn't linger in the ground for that long. Like it's kind of like Predator's low mine in the sense that it lingers on the ground for a bit, but it's not long at all. And if they block it while you're in the animation of Skull Trap, you're like negative 25. So um, chances are, if you block Skull Trap, you're getting punished. So really, his only good zoning tool is Purple Skulls, in my opinion. His overhead projectile is way too slow. Um, I understand they don't want to make a fast overhead projectile, but I feel like they should speed up that projectile and make it a mid because he doesn't really have too good of like of a non-high projectile outside aerial skeleton. Um, and his 2 bar launcher is obviously another hindrance too. Like they should just make that a mid if they really have an issue with the 50-50s. I would make it 1 bar and make it a mid, and he could focus more on the zoning while also having combos without trying to mix people or having mix-up options. It's just like little stuff like that. I think would really help him out. Um, his stand 4 is pretty good, which is cool. It's a nice anti-zoning tool. Um,
And it's a great whiff punishing tool, right? Because it can not just whiff punishing, block punish, right? Because it can block punish a lot of moves in a game that even full screen, that obviously because it's so fast that many other characters cannot. But to me, I'm just having like a hard time understanding, and I guess this is kind of where Crimson Eye may part ways. How they can release Omni Man in his state where he dominated the meta for like 2 brief weeks, even if it's just in rank mode. Yet they release this character in this state where most people don't even use him. I play like one Quan Chi maybe like once in like in an hour. Yet Omni Man, the meta allowed him to live and people adapted. Yet we're not allowed to get around the zoning. I just don't understand. Like I troll NRS, about the anti-zoning zealotry, but this is literally it. Like this is anti-zoning zealotry. Like I don't know how you else would put it. Like
oh, this is. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. I'm sorry.
no, I'm just gonna comment. It's just I don't understand like how they let this rock, meaning Omni Man. Yet God forbid this zoning character like can play the basic meta of the game. With a normal down one. If they want to nerf his health, I understand. Like, I'm not even denying that. That's fine. Like we've seen that before. It's been in Street Fighter 30 years, 30 plus years. But I just don't understand why they would literally let him play with like literally handcuffed or whatever, let him use one hand like he's Oro or something. Like I don't get it. I really, really don't. Well, maybe I do because they're scared, and that's the way Tweety put it. They're so scared because in the past their zoning gates have been so broken, not because of the zoning, because of their own incompetence. Um, I don't want to overreact. Don't want to comment too much on this topic because I don't want to complain. It's an ongoing. Uh, it, it's a it's a topic that I've been passionate about for a long time. Somebody else take it away, please.
I was about
Crimson,
to add
I
one
guess.
more.
Yeah, go ahead. You and then Crimson.
Yeah, I was gonna add one more thing about like my criticisms on Quan was like you know how you have the portal out, and like he has like the differences in like the projectile properties. Well, there's times like excuse me, I'm recovering from a sore throat. Um, there's times where if I'm like by a portal, I'll want to use like the overhead projectile, but not like the meteor enhanced version, you know, that you get from the portal. I wish you could choose like which kind of projectile you would want in the situation of when a
Yes,
portal is in the
yes,
active.
yes. That's exactly how I felt like as well. Or like,
Because
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, no I'm sorry. I was gonna say I wish you had the option to choose from which projectile you wanted, regardless of if the portal's out. That's all I was trying to say. My bad.
I mean, Crimson, am I being unreasonable? I know in the past, have had all differences about the zoning in this game, and I want to give you a chance to respond. So I did kind of call you out. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about this on the forum, but it was clear they did add safeties to a number of different aspects of Quant. The question is why? My guess is he probably has some dirt that came out in testing, and they decided that they needed to counterbalance it. So, but it's just too early to know, you know? I can't sit here right now and say you're right, you're wrong. I do know that we've had this same conversation about a number of characters that ended up doing much better than people gave them credit for, right? If we went down the list of characters that got written off in first couple weeks, it would include Sindel, it would include Havoc, it would include a lot of characters that are doing really well right now. So, I mean, maybe we can segue into the tournament talk, but the results are not quite matching a lot of what people said, and all that means is people need time to flesh things out. But I mean, if you guys are cool segueing into tournaments, maybe we can talk about that.
Oh, we can, but don't you think that? Look, speaking of tournaments,
Hold on, I
and
have a few
speaking of people,
more things to say on
yeah,
this
yeah,
before we go on
fair enough,
because I don't
fair enough.
believe he probably had some dirt they found out in testing. Oh, like the dirt they found out in testing and during the beta with Kenshi. Surely they were no, they weren't. Or the dirt people knew about Johnny Cage in testing. If they're that dumb that they don't know how to do a knee and strings and whatever after playing, then they need to find new testers. I mean, and I don't mean to say that, but I mean like, did they not know about that dirt? Why is that allowed? So,
And Tom,
but they
if I
find
may,
out some dirt from Quan Chi.
and Tom, I watched Rewind, one of the best players today, like fight a Kenshi and he losing 2 touches. Like that's been going on since the beta. So why is that allowed and certain other stuff is not allowed?
And then
It's
on the combat
it's
cast, like when you say like we made him to be tricky, he has his back 3 low, and then he has this overhead. What overhead? Who is that gonna hit? Like, don't insult our intelligence. Who in their right mind said, yeah, he's kind of a 50-50 tricky character like MKX? Who actually thought that? Who actually thought that's how he was coming out? That is, they just say that to sell it to you. Like, I mean, it makes you say, do they even know their own game? And if they don't, that's even more troubling. And that's, I think, where the game is right now. And that gives me very little faith going forward. They don't even know their own game. They don't even know it. And they operate under 2 different set of rules. Like I said, Kenshi.
But hold on, Tom. What you're saying is that they're biased towards certain like what characters, gameplay styles. They don't even know what they're doing. Like you need to be more
They
specific.
operate under. So every game normally has what's called pillars, in which the philosophy and the theory of the game is built. Mortal Kombat NetherRealm, for the last few years, will have these pillars where these characters can do this, but then say these characters can't do that. And the reasons they say, well, because we don't want this, but there are characters that do what you say you don't want. Their pillars don't match, which is the problem. So for anyone to convince me that Quan probably had some dirt that they had to scale back, well, there's other dirt that they knew about, but that didn't get scaled back. We knew it because we saw it in the beta. You had top players saying, yeah, this is a bit much. They don't care. Why take care of Kenshi when you can nerf the Ice Clone? When you can nerf Quan Chi? Omni-Man, hey, if he's, anything built to get in and stay in, that's what we're going to do. Anything that's the opposite, might have found some dirt. I mean, what are we doing here? And then to sell it to us like he's a 50-50 character? He's not any type of character. He's not a zoner. He's not a rushdown character. You sell him to us as he's a tricky, quote verbatim, he's a tricky 50-50 character. Where? And it's like Franco said, like they tried to make him like that, but still didn't even make that good and penalize them there. It's like, so they could say, hey, he's not as good of a zoner because he's a tricky 50-50 character. But his tricky 50-50s, quote unquote, are not super good. And his launcher is a high cost because he's also a zoner. And he's actually neither. And they do one to justify scaling back the other, and they do the other to justify scaling back the other one. And Johnny Cage doesn't have this problem. I find it hard to believe they knew exactly what. Anyone who's ever played a Mortal Kombat game would tell you, hey, if you want to make Johnny Cage good, give him an 8-frame shadow kick, a 9-frame mid, maybe a jab string that's launching, jabs that are plus. Anyone could tell you that. And they did that to him. It doesn't make any sense to me. They know exactly what. There is no limitation there. But Quan, let's play it safe. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And for someone to tell me that they found some dirt, well, why say, well, this dirt can't be good, but the other dirt's okay? Why? Makes no sense. Their pillars don't match up, and that's the problem with the game.
Well, let me say this, and I know Shaz is gonna have a field show with this because he's gonna troll the crap out of me. But we played for 4 hours. God bless you, Shaz. You're arguably maybe the best training partner, even some people locally that I have. I probably lost 100 to 20, trying my absolute best to fight that piece of garbage Omni-Man with Quan Chi. And even though he's a much, much better player, I know many people don't believe it, but guys, I'm an Evo finalist. I know zoning. I know the zoning like the back of my hand. I can't rush down. I can't punish. You guys have seen it. But I know my zoning. And if the zoning is good, you bet your ass I know how to take advantage of it. With this character, you can't. You just can't. He comes in, has these plus strings. I'm dealing with a 9-frame minus 10 down 1. I get my ass kicked. What am I supposed to do? I have an armor that's like 25, 26 frames fast. Like, or slow in this matter. Like, it is rough. And there was a series where I believe Sonic Fox with his Quan Chi was fighting against Zombats. I think like what day 3, 4, like Scorpion and Motaro picked, and he even lost. This character is so limited. Sonic Fox can win with him. So when I hear people say, like Tom said, "Oh, let's do," maybe some I don't know beta exceptions. Come on. Yet I see Rewind. See all these fucking people. They fight Kenshi. They're losing 2 hits. This guy was doing like 50% Kenshi combo, and he still had like 5 seconds of Sento left. I don't get it, man. Like, why is that? It should be in the game. But why is the opposite? I think that's the reason Tom is so passionate about this. Is this topic is like, why is the opposite just not allowed to live? I don't get it. I really, really don't. Well, maybe I do. Maybe this one's only to be crap. I think that's really it. But this Cage stuff, this Kenshi stuff, Sindel Vortex stuff, they're top three for a reason. Like that's because they have the best offense. Where's the opposite of that in the game? Ah, man, oh man, Franco, am I right or wrong?
I mean, I obviously, I think I think it's pretty obvious. Like they're definitely willing to let like rush down play styles like thrive, probably because it's just more visually appealing to an audience than zoning is, or more less frustrating to fight against than zoning. But I mean, I don't defend that philosophy at all. I think the more archetypes that can exist, the better, whether it be zoning or, dare I say, trap characters with and ice clones and defensive slow play styles. Um, I'm all for that stuff, like always, and dare I say, mid command grabs. So yeah, I think they definitely were overly cautious designing Quan Chi and just a lot of other archetypes in general. They definitely, I would say, I or favor like rush down aspects and characters.
Well, let me just say, like Crimson Pig and Soul Cat's Hot. It's not about guys. I'm a washed up old man. Like I'm not gonna compete again. Probably. It's not about winning or
But I
losing.
want to
It's just
address their
about
point right there because I'm so
Tom. Let me
tired.
say
I'm
this.
so tired of hearing that.
Tom, let me say this real quick.
Okay.
Let me say this. It's people think it's about guys. It's not about winning or losing. I played a game. I play Ashra, and King came in one night drunk, beat me 20-5. Like it's not about that. It's not. It's not. I'm not a competitor anymore. The point is the character just doesn't play. Tom calls me like, dude, Ice Clone. I know you guys are gonna play Royal, but it's like the triple Ice Clone doesn't function the way it's designed. I'm like, yes, it doesn't. And that's what this is about. Like, how can you have a character like play like this in a game where you have a 9 frame forward three? That's crazy. Why would you even entertain that idea? And yes, of course they're fucking biased. It's crazy to me that this can even coexist in the same game. But yeah, I'm passionate about it because I used to win with zoning, and I want to give other players the same opportunity to win like that. So I'm glad people like Tom, Tweety, they're speaking out about this stuff because it barely gets any representation. Because more people just want to fucking spam the same shit in your face. Um, but Tom, before you comment, let's give Crimson a fair shake to respond because I think some of the stuff could be directed at him if he perceived it as such.
Well, I'd like to talk about what's actually happening in tournament matches. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
fair enough.
pass until we get there, but I think it relates to a lot of stuff that we're talking about right now.
Well, what are the results
I have
that
one
you?
thing to say
Okay,
on Pig's comment.
okay, fair enough.
I am so
Yeah, go ahead.
tired. The biggest lie anyone will ever tell you in the Mortal Kombat scene is that people refuse to pick another character. Let me tell you the real truth. What happens is something is in the game. Some people refuse to pick another character to deal with it. They want it nerfed, and then they want to tell you to pick the other character. But you can say, well, it should have never been changed. You could have picked another character. Yeah, but I didn't want to. You should do that. That's the NRS community. That is literally the NRS community. They sell this lie to people like, well, pick another character. Well, couldn't you have picked another character? I could have, but I didn't want to. Now you have to. You should do that. Yeah, I'm sure I should. Stupid talk. It's the dumbest argument ever. That is the actual truth of the NRS community. It has been that way since Injustice 1. At least in MK9, it wasn't like that. It's only because they didn't patch the game after the first 6 months. Otherwise, I'm sure that would have happened too. That was just literally the limitations of the time. Otherwise, I'm sure they would have gotten to the same place. That's really the problem. And now it's like just take the cuffs off everybody. Just stop. Just that's kind of where I am. Let's move on to tournaments now. But yeah, that's kind of where I am.
Well, let's move on to tournament. So, Crimson, I believe you've been watching a lot. So have I. I think we have a memorable set between. I forget his name, and I feel awful. The Rain player who just beat um, Dragon, and I forget what tournament it was. But I
Banditos.
didn't. Yes, Banditos. Thank you, because he definitely deserves the prop. But that's another character. I still think is massively limited. But I guess we're done with that topic. But Crimson, take it away, please.
Yeah, so I want to start by giving a shout out to two people. Number one is Gurr. Anyone who's ever met Gurr in person, which I have, knows that he's one of the nicest people ever. But when he gets in the tournament, he goes into a completely different gear, right?
Also,
And
yeah, one of the most humble people in the community, maybe in the whole FGC ever, honestly. But go ahead.
absolutely great guy. So we've seen him kind of leveling up game by game, and I think that in some previous tournaments and previous games, he reached a point where when he was playing against the absolute best players, sometimes he would get a little nervous or lose his composure. There was just some piece that wasn't clicking to be able to finish people off. And we've seen in this game, Gary continues to get better and better. So now we go into DreamHack. Dude, DreamHack Atlanta, one of the best tournaments I've seen probably in years. It actually reminded me a little bit of MLG because the production was so tight and everything was completely professional. Commentary was good, but also the matches were ridiculous. And look at what happened. We were just talking about Garrus. Gur won the entire thing. He beat Dragon and beat Dragon convincingly. All right, like the grand finals, Gur was completely in control, and you could see it on his face. Not only that, but if you look at what happened in the bracket on the way there, right? Toxin eliminates Pulse's Cage with Havoc. I think he actually made him switch off of Cage after two matches. Dialogue eliminates Just Nasty in top eight with Shao. So it's interesting to me that as much as people talk about how Sinto's insurmountable, you can't beat Cage, all this other stuff, the players who are winning, what style are they winning with? Is it crazy rushdown? No, it's not. Garrus wants to be at a distance where he can build hourglass, where he can bait you into making a mistake from half screen away with snap. If you look at how Gur plays and how Dragon plays, they're both very patient players. They both prioritize neutral and space control, and that's what's winning right now. So it's interesting. Second guy I want to give a shout out to, you guys mentioned already, Bandinos. We've been hearing for months how Ran was only good because of Cyrax, and how now he's basically unviable and will never show up in a tournament again.
Go ahead. Did we disconnect, or did you want to finish your thought? I'm sorry.
I'm still here.
Crimson, are you still here?
Yeah, so
Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
did you, did you want to finish your thought? I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
in order for him to win, he had to beat Dragon twice. He had to fight Gitrek and make him switch off of Cage to go to Lao, and then beat Gitrek, reset the bracket in grand finals, and beat him again to win. And he did it with three different cameos with Sub, Cyrax, and Striker. So when Sonic said a few weeks ago that most people don't know what they're talking about when it comes to characters, in tournament, we're seeing this every week. And I think we should not jump to conclusions about the only styles that can win because they're not actually winning anything right now. Anyway, that's my take. I'm curious to see what you guys think, but I've yet to see a Cage or Kenshi win literally anything in the last 3 months.
But they're placing constantly in Rips Arena, Coliseum. I watch this a lot, and I don't share stuff about me personally, but I have plenty of time to watch this stuff because I have a lot of days off, and I do actually this game. You talk about a hobby. I mean, I played every day because I like it. I played every day, and I watched every day because I like it too. Especially recently, with buffs to the cameos. That's why I was giving the game a lot of props. But I feel like, and Crimson, I mean, with all due respect, nobody talks about when Sub-Zero loses because that's what people expect. But everybody talks about when Sub-Zero wins because that's what people don't expect. And that's the same thing with some of these characters. How many times have we seen Get Wrecked, Get Wrecked Yo, or I mean, you name it, any of the top level online players or even offline players when they're successful, they win. It's quiet. Nobody talks about it. How many times has Hourglass of Rain won an online tournament with Melina using low hat into hard unblockables? Many, many, many times nobody talks about it because that's what people see. Yet the moment one Rain player does something for the first time in what, Lord knows how many months, the character has not won anything with Cyrax, without Cyrax. Now it's a new story. It's like, is this some kind of like observational bias? Not necessarily on your part, on all our parts, because I was celebrating that moment as well. Or is it something just out of ordinary happening and we're celebrating, which is fine? That's my issue with this logic.
Well, look,
I
I think you'd
Go
be
ahead.
right if most of the tournaments were being won by Kenshi and Cage, and then all of a sudden, someone playing a slower space control style wins a tournament, and people are like, "Oh my God, see." But can you think of a Cage or Kenshi that's been winning events? I can't. So, and it's not necessarily about the tier list because I still think, right, Cage is undisputed top one. But what I'm saying is, if you look at what's actually successful, people who are winning events, whether that is with, whatever character, right? Rain, Garrus,
But you
whoever,
can
they're
make the
not
same
playing this
argument even
crazy
about
rushdown
MK9.
style.
Like you can make the same. Who won with Kenshi aside from Pig? Who? Chris G tried the character, got annihilated by 60-bit back in the day. You can make the same. JP, who's winning with JP aside from like the top of the top, like the top players? Who You can make the same argument literally about every fighting game ever made. Uh, just name me the fighting game. As long as I played it, I know the meta. I will tell you. So, don't you think this argument is, again, with all the respect, a little bit insincere?
I
Because the
don't think
moment a
it's
low tier,
insincere if people are
how is it not?
arguing.
Because the moment like a low tier, whatever mid tier wins, oh, it's front page news. Like because that's what sells, right? Cage winning any match, whether it's in the grand finals, in the pools, or anything in between, is not front page news because that's not what sells in this day and age, right? Like, why would you talk about that? We know he's strong. Like, what's the point? That's kind
Yeah,
of what I'm trying to make people understand.
but if people are gonna claim on the podcast that listen, there's one style that can win and that's it. I've just watched two
100%.
two great players in two different tournaments have to switch off Cage due to someone playing a patient style with space control and beating them and making them switch. So all I'm saying
And
is
nobody ever said that style was
I
useless
just
or
heard 5 minutes ago that there's only one thing that can win in this game, and it's this crazy rushdown, right? So all I'm saying is
Maybe
the
because
meta is
their
deeper
moves
than that.
work and do what they're supposed to do. When all your moves do what they're supposed to do, all your mind games are there. Some are better, some are worse, but they're all there. Quan Chi doesn't have that benefit. That's why you see Rain doing what he does and Scorpion doing what he does, but not the other characters in their tier. Because what they do is incomplete. Even though they're all low tier, at least if your kit is there and the move does what it's supposed to do, you're fine. Quan Chi, like I said, oh, the overheads and lows that aren't really overheads and lows. But yet that's part of this is what he's supposed to do. Overheads and lows and be tricky. That doesn't work. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. My argument is not that rushdown is the only thing that's prevalent. But rushdown always does what it's supposed to do in this game. There's never an example of a rushdown character who doesn't do, or their moves don't work, or they don't do really anything at all. No, that's never the case. Oh, no, they make sure that works. But they'll take it. Even Rain. What Rain does, any mind game he has to enforce, it's all there. It's not like, oh, why is that in the game for? That's stupid. The kit all flows into each other, and the player can do the work and bring those tools up. What player is going to make Quan Chi a tricky 50-50 character? Who? Who is this person? Who? ridiculous. That's my argument. And
Speaking of, hold on a second, Tom. Speaking of Rain, I never said he was useless. And Crimson, you on the last podcast even said like, yeah, the character's limited, like he has issues. That's all we're saying. I'm not saying like, look, do I exaggerate sometimes? Yes. Am I saying zoning is used in this game? I never said so. Like I said, yeah, op is just a lot better. Like, am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong
Pig,
at all.
and I'm not saying that Kenshi is his broken. What I'm saying is the rules don't apply. I was watching Kombat play earlier. He said, "Why does Raiden's overhead safe and not reptiles?"
Excellent. Again,
For what point?
Exactly.
Why is me, if I spend 1 bar to do something, to bait something out, and then spend the other bar to punish? Oh, I spent 1 bar for the 3 clones, so I know I don't get to do my main combo because mine is on cooldown. Kenshi will hit you, call Sento, pressure you for 1,000,000 seconds, and if you get hit the very second he goes down, he just calls him right back. There's no cooldown whatsoever. Like, it's not about is something broken or not. Games, again, my whole point, and there's no argument, they are built on pillars. NRS's pillars conflict with each other. You can't do this or you can do that, can't do that because that's not good for the game. We have to be safe. But these things that we say can't be done, we changed our mind. You can do them. You cannot. And it's not and Sonic Fox this, okay, I know 2 characters I don't see him using to win with. I can tell you that shit right now. So, I'm just saying, at the end of the day.
Well, let's give Franco a chance to respond because he hasn't talked enough. Franco, what is your? I think Crimson, Tom, and I have had plenty to say. What do you think, my friend?
As far as Rain goes, and I don't know what
I mean, just in general
Bandito.
about this conversation about offense versus zoning, defense versus, like, what do you have to say? Because
I'm gonna say
traditionally, you've been a pretty offensive player, I would say. Like, and a player who I've blown you up so many times in the past about your views about zoning, including an MKX. I mean, Tom and I being biased, the Crimson being biased is
Hey,
the
wait. What controversial zoning opinions did I have in MKX?
you wanted.
HQT Predator, the pre-patch zoning he had was broken. I'm telling you, because
Look,
that's what you're talking about.
that's
But
another hell yeah, that's
that's
what I'm
a
talking about.
different story.
Well, that's not a different story. You talk like, look, let's save this conversation maybe for another time. But as far as this one, because I have plenty to say about that stupid logic, but please go ahead and
I mean,
talk about MK.
and Franco, address this point also when you do this, because we might as well get it all out because we were talking for a while.
What's up?
This garbage logic that you never know. Maybe there's a mystery man out there who has unraveled the secrets of the universe to Quan Chi, and we could see Bandito. What the hell does Banditos and Rain have to do with Quan Chi? Nothing. It's clearly obvious, and it's been proven in every fighting game since the beginning of time. As long as your kit is complementary, even if your character is lower tier, the player can bring those tools up. It's when your kit is like, it's supposed to do this, but it doesn't do it really. That's kind of where maybe 1 or 2, 3 characters are in this game. And there's no bringing that up because it doesn't flow together because there's a piece missing. So what that Banditos is doing this with Rain. Why can't players do this with Quan Chi or this character or that character? Because they don't have a kit that actually does what it's supposed to do. It's like, well, it should do this, but it's, we'll just kind of, half-ass that because it could be too strong. That's the whole thing. As long as the character's kit is complete, the player can bring it up. When it's not and there are safeguards on it, good luck.
I haven't watched any tournaments, unfortunately. Even the one that Gurr won, I missed that. The Banditos performance, I didn't see either. But was that offline or online?
Online.
Was that an online tournament?
Yeah, it was an online. Obviously the girl stuff was offline though.
Yeah, the as far as Rain goes, I still think he's bottom 2 still. I think he's like him and Quan Chi are in a tier of their own of like the worst characters in the game. But as far as like the archetypes, like I already said, I think they definitely favor rushdown archetype characters and are way too cautious about other archetypes like zoning, command grab characters, slow turtling characters, trap characters, etc.
But you would agree
So
that, I mean, go ahead, Chris, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say somehow this got back to Quan Chi. That's not what the point is about. Listen, no, no
It's
one.
all about Quan Chi, Chris. Come on, man.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, this is Quan Chi cast, Wule cast.
Well, I thought I
So
was
Where's
being asked.
Michelangelo and we need him?
I thought I
No,
was
I
being
mean, you
asked.
insinuated
the-
that Banditos was the Messiah who was proven that in any day, any Sunday, anybody can win with any character. That's the biggest bunch of
no,
bullshit I ever heard in my
that's
entire
not
fucking
at all
life.
what I'm. That's not at
Man.
all what I'm saying. The point is not about.
Go ahead, finish your point.
Yeah, the point is not about Quan Chi or Sub Zero or whatever, and it's not about the game being perfectly balanced because it's not. Like there's still work to do. The point is, what is the style that is winning tournaments, and what is the style that has allowed people playing characters of lower tier to beat very good players? I'll give you a hint. It's not insane rushdown. It is patience and space control. That's what I'm saying. So it's not that you expect to see Rain win a tournament every week. Like that was amazing for Bandinos. It's not going to happen every week. All I'm saying, all
Oh, he
Pig
shut
said in
out.
the chat. Pig said in the chat, all I see is people switching off Kenshi to play other characters to win. So I think it's an interesting point. The actual meta of this game, in terms of what's successful, is actually not pure rushdown. And I think we should stop talking as if it's a one-dimensional meta because it's not.
The meta is complementary kits with cameos. That is the meta. But NRS is hesitant to make certain kits complementary with each other and with a cameo. They are very hesitant. That is all we are saying. So is it dominated by offense only? No, not 100% offense. But at the same time, Rain doesn't fit into any of those categories that Dave was saying, hey, those are not allowed to live. Rain doesn't fit into those categories. In fact, most of these characters don't fit into those categories. Any character that does, you better believe that character is going to come out toned down significantly. And that's the
But
whole
it's hard
point.
to argue. It's hard to argue for pro zoning, even if you believe zoning is very strong in this game. When you have stuff like Sub-Zero's cameo, ironic now Motaro cameo. I fought Ashra, a couple of them online today. I was using Reiko. If I do a projectile at a certain range, I'm gonna get hit. So that means she naturally just gets to close the distance and bully me because she has better footsies. I don't associate that with zoning. I'm sorry. I associate with it anti-zoning and something that favors offense. Whether it's Sub-Zero, Motaro, or Striker with Baraka throwing grenades and you have to block them because he's doing a half-screen armor. Like, I just don't see the stuff that you're seeing. Like, even results-wise, like, you talk about Baraka, he has won. And how does he win? By throwing grenades, getting in for free, and mixing your ass up. Those are the results. Literally, for Tekka Master, or Tweety, or whether the Mighty Unjust is using Kenshi or Baraka or otherwise. Like that's what's winning. And honestly, I'm a guy who says, you know what? In this day and age, Rushdown should be better because that's what sells. That's what gets people's attention. That's all okay. But my problem is when people deny that. That's when I have my issue with this logic. Yeah, you can mention about Gears. I'm gonna mention Baraka. I'm gonna mention Cage. I'm gonna mention uh Liu Kang coming into your face and just mixing you up nonstop. I just don't see what you're seeing.
Yeah,
Unless
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, please go ahead.
Something you said made me think of something to throw in there, but like, you know, I still am agreeing to your point that you're saying, like, obviously let Rushdown be the main source of like the successful archetypes, I guess, because it is
Which it
more
is,
visual.
which it literally is right now. I don't think
Yeah,
anybody would
it
deny
is.
that.
But like, you as a zoner, like, obviously we all like for all of us that want more archetypes, like it'd be cool if zoning was more prevalent, because even if it was more prevalent, like they shouldn't be scared to bring in more zoning archetype characters, because there's literally anti-zoning tools in the game. You have Sub Cameo, Motaro. Like, even though the zoning presence isn't even that strong in this game, they have anti-zoning cameos literally to counter them. So I don't see why like there's over caution with certain archetypes existing. You know.
Well, there is, because I'm gonna make this short, because in the past they have released incredibly brain dead and zoning characters, like like talking about that shot is the most recent example. Deathstroke in Injustice 1. You can mention some other characters there as well.
But I
So
mean, in this game though, there's direct counters to those.
yeah, I know there
archetypes.
is. Of course there is.
In
And
those games, yeah, there wasn't like a Sub-Zero cameo,
yeah,
ice
but that's
armor.
like the past influences the present and the future, right? We know that. So but that's not the fact that the zoning shouldn't be strong. It's the fact that you guys literally developed brain dead characters. And yes, I was wrong in the past because I used to defend those characters. Mind you, in a completely different game, in a different scenario, but fair enough. I'll take responsibility. So that's why I have a problem when people say, you know, I just don't see what people. When people say like that, rushdown is. I'm sorry, the zoning is as prevalent in this game as the rushdown. Like, what game are you watching? It's like, yeah, you see some of it, but it's like nowhere near to the extent as I would personally would love to. And I think that's what Tom is frustrated about, because
I mean, look, I watch all these tournaments. I watch them all. So when I see Raiden doing Storm Cell, Storm Cell, Storm Cell, Storm Cell with cameo, and then like,
it's another
oh,
character you
yeah,
see a
yeah,
lot,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
of course.
and then it's like, oh, my cameo's down. Now I'm gonna do a Storm Cell that's low, that's safe against 90% of the cast, safe launcher. What? Well, hey, that's not necessarily mega rushdown, but it's just look at the stupidity of some of these tools. Like, it's a disingenuous argument to say, hey, somebody won there with good footsies, and dude, that's a disingenuous argument. Those tools are extremely powerful with very little flaw, very little flaw. Even when I watched, like, and this is a different argument altogether, I watched Banditos play tonight, made a good comeback by hitting somebody with 100 million frame overhead that will never hit anybody off the internet. In fact, what I've seen is when I watch UFA, all these miraculous overheads that hit online didn't hit once. When I watched that tournament, now Crimson Shadow made the argument that nobody online ever gets hit with Ashra overhead. I don't believe that at all.
I didn't say no one gets hit with an overhead. I said part of the reason that Bandino's beat Dragon is that he blocked 95% of the overheads. Like,
Okay.
he wasn't getting opened
That's
up.
not always the case. Most connections are also not even to that situation where you can do that. And my next thing is, I saw Banditos win today because he locked the guy down in the corner, strings, throws, strike throw mix-ups, long strings, portal stuff. That's kind of locking you down. Rain can still lock you down to some extent in the corner. He does have some dirt.
You gotta be kidding me right now.
I
You
literally
have to be kidding
I
me.
literally saw that guy
That
got
may have
locked down in the
happened
corner.
Twice.
I
That may
didn't.
have happened
Okay,
twice.
that's
I'm pretty sure
Hold
a lot
on,
of that-
hold on.
those
Again,
people
this is
have
a
no
disingenuous
idea.
argument.
Rain's a lockdown.
No, this is a disingenuous
Guys,
argument.
time.
I said he has the ability to do that in certain situations, and Krim turns it into this character's locking you down. That's a bad argument. No, what I'm saying is characters have small things they can do here and there in situations. Their tools are complementary to certain things. He's not a lockdown character, but he has certain situations where he can do this, he can do that, he can do this. Is it always as strong as another character? No, but it is good enough in certain situations. Quan Chi has none of that. I'll tell you right now, Sub-Zero has a slide that doesn't go under. He has a high crush that doesn't go under highs. An ice ball that takes forever to freezes nothing. The character has to do a jab into 2 hits and a slide as an anti-air because he can't jab ice ball. The point is, this game has kept complementary kits for certain characters, legacy kits for other characters, and then punish characters like Quan Chi, punish other characters in the game, and then you come on here and make an argument and saying, oh, look, I'm seeing these characters win. You're talking about characters that have complementary kits that can also be complemented with a cameo. There are some characters who don't. Most Quan Chis use Serena. Serena is almost the universal, outside of Ashra, we have no cameo that works with us, so we'll play Serena. That's literally what the cameo is there for. She's like the home for lost characters. Like, no. This game, it's too safe. And NetherRealm, if you put something in the game, just make sure it's worked. This is the only game where they do something like this. This is the only games where they do this. That if NetherRealm made Tekken, the Mishimas would have a Godfist that never launched. Like that's just how. But then somebody else would have a move just like it that launches. And
Tom,
then
let's have Crimson respond.
ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
Crimson, go ahead. You wanted to respond, please?
Yeah, okay. First of all, I don't know how this keeps getting back to Quan Chi because none of this
Crimson, he's the latest DLC, bro. Come on, bro.
He's the latest DLC, and you're making the argument. But my argument is not that offense is the only thing that wins. It's complementary things where characters' tools complement the character, and the cameo can be added on top of that. And I'm not saying that's every character in the game, but I'm saying there are just some characters who they're too safe with. And those characters just happen to be the archetype that NRS is trying to weed out. And there's no argument you can make. You can bring up Banditos, you can bring up this guy, you can bring up Melina, and every other character you want to bring up. None of those characters fit that archetype. The only characters that they are with kid gloves on are the ones that fit into the forbidden archetype. And no tournament, no result, nothing you can possibly bring up can argue that.
Crimson, go ahead. It's your floor.
So no one's saying the game is perfectly balanced, Tom. This isn't about Quan Chi. Like I said, the jury is out on Quan.
It's all about Quan Chi, bro.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Hey guys. I know you just. I know you. Yeah. No, hold on. You just paid $110. You had paid $110 for that.
Tom, let him talk.
No one has sat here today and said, "Yo, Quan's amazing. You guys are all wrong. You all suck." Right? That's not the point. However, the list of characters that you're talking about is what? Maybe 5 characters out of the entire cast? Is that? So we said on the last podcast, yeah, they were probably too safe with sub. Like they can continue to open them up. Like no one's arguing this. But if you're arguing that if you look at the entire cast, that no other playstyles are allowed to succeed by the interest bias or meta than Rushdown, all I'm saying is it's interesting. If you look at who's doing really, really well, like it's actually pretty balanced in terms of people playing a more aggressive style versus people like Dragon, who play a style where they sit back. They look at the number of matches that go to timeout in this game in tournament. It's easily every other set their match is going to timeout. Why is that? Because face control is what's winning. So all I'm saying is I don't think there's this massive agenda to force Rushdown down everyone's throat. And I think it's interesting that some of these characters, even tonight, like I watched Kombat beat Scar's Kenshi with Quan Chi. And I asked Kombat, how good is Quan? He wasn't saying the character was trash. He wasn't writing them off. So why is it that better players are not writing him off right away and are willing to explore this?
Because they don't want to deal with the alternative and actually fighting it when it works right. Because in our scene, even the very best of the best, they don't want it in the game. I'm not going to say any names, but one of our top 3 players has been seen many times on stream complaining about, oh, I got to chase this guy. I got to do this for 10 seconds. And Dave, you know that.
That is 100%.
So even our best players, they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with it. So of course they'll say, look, even Sub-Zero, it took months for everyone to accept where he was. When the game came out for the first 45 days, what was the argument? And Dave, you know this for a while. No one's playing him right. Maybe some mystery man will figure it out, but he's the only character that nobody's understood. No, he needs to play Cyrex. No, he needs to play Goro. No, he needs to play... Enough of this garbage about this rocket science game that has characters that nobody's figured out yet. No, people will say whatever they have to say to keep certain things they don't want to deal with out of the game. Period. Especially people that play it for money. Period. It's just human nature.
And to some extent, we're all biased, right? Like Tom wants to play a lame style. I want to play a zoning style. Franco probably wants to have a lot of take throws with a command grab character. If he doesn't get it, like he's gonna be upset. So no, I mean, guys, look, I'm no longer a competitor.
Give me my mid command grab.
I know,
NRS.
and that's what you still talk about that, right? Like we need to be honest with ourselves, and I'm not denying any of this stuff because it's human nature. And the best thing is, most of us we're no longer competitors, right? Especially Tom and I, we're old, we've done it, but we have to keep it real, right? And I am keeping it real because in the past I didn't, but now I am. I just don't see. What do you think Quan Chi is amazing as potential? He's top 5. I just don't see when you watch this game and you think, wow, the zoning is really make a difference. I don't know what you're watching.
It's not even
And
about that. It's not even about that.
But it is about
no,
that.
because
Because
people
that's
are going to
what
listen to
we
this and they're going to think, oh, people want they just want zoning. Dave just wants zoning. My
No, I
argument
don't
is,
want to.
and the reason
I literally said, Tom, I literally said that offense should rule the game because it's more spectator friendly. I've learned my lesson. Look, that's what people want. That's what people get, and that's what they got with this game. But to have anybody say like, you know what, maybe it's close to evenish, maybe slightly in Rushdown's favor. That's just, I just don't understand that
It's
logic.
probably like 90-10,
it's not
my
even about
opinion.
is it in favor of Rushdown's favor or not. And I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Krim, but for those who are watching on YouTube or whatever, I have a hard time hearing. I know you paid $110 to make sure you get these 4 or 5 characters, or some of you just paid $7.99 a la carte. But forget about that. You can play that character in a year. Forget about him for right now. We just paid for him. Congratulations. You come back to him later, maybe in a year, and then play him and enjoy your. This NRS has been feasting on this logic of we're going to sell you this, but you can't use it for a year because we got to be safe. And they do this over and over and over again. Absolutely not. Do they not gouge enough money from people? My God, man. No.
That might not. I don't know if that's an NRS thing or not. To be honest, that might be.
Okay,
not-
but the
that's
community has no
That's
problem
not-
with that. They have no problem with like, hey,
What are you talking? People, communities are outraged about this.
this is this is just like and again, it's not
everybody's
it's not about is Quan Chi good or could he not be? He has stuff. They toned his zoning down because he has 50-50s, but they toned his 50-50s down because he has zoning. So really, he's good at neither. I didn't ask if you can be middle of the pack or low tier and still be. This is what I don't understand. People don't seem to understand that I'm saying. You can be middle of the pack or low tier simply because there are better characters with better tools, but you have your own tools. So if you're low tier because there are just better characters, but your own tools are still pretty good, that's acceptable, and anybody can work with that and still dominate by being. However, the characters wear the tier list, and it's not good because you're there because your stuff just doesn't flow together right. That's bad. Nobody overcomes that. Period. That's where Quan Chi is, and that's where, in some ways, Sub-Zero is still. And
I agree with that.
And all we're saying is, if you're gonna make them low tier, just make them low tier because they're better characters. Don't say we gave Quan Chi zoning, but it's not that good because we gave him these 50-50s. But these 50-50s aren't that good because we gave them the zoning. So you have average to mediocre zoning, and it doesn't really work like zoning per se. He's just throwing fireballs at you. Okay, all right. Just throwing a fireball doesn't make you a zoner. Sticking feathers up your butt does not make you a chicken. That's a Fight Club reference. But
This is stupid, man.
it's a good philosophy.
You're making me crack up, man.
It's a good philosophy, right?
It is, but let me say this. That shit was funny. But let me say this. Look, even if Franco will disagree with me, I think actually Quan Chi is good zoning. Hey, I'm sorry. Why are we talking about Quan Chi? But look,
Oh my
look,
God.
I know, right? Like Quan Chi, like bro. Michelangelo wouldn't talk about this much about Quan Chi. But let me say this, and I
No,
promise
no,
you
I'm only
to
bringing
move on.
it because we were talking about like,
I know. It's,
look at these
it's
other
like Quan
characters.
Chi.
They're able to perform. These low tiers are performing in tournaments. They're not rushed down characters. The point is, that's a disingenuous argument. No one is saying this game only thing that wins is rushdown. What we are saying, what will never win, is what is not allowed to exist. And that to make he was making a straw man argument. No one is saying that that's not the case.
Okay, so you just made the point. There's a top player who doesn't want to deal with anything where they have to chase people down. So all I'm saying is, I've watched Dragon in multiple tournaments backdash for his life and time people out who had to try to get in on him as he was running away. Tonight, I watched Kombat play that same style against Scar and Sento, which we've been talking about all podcast. He was backdashing for his life. So I'm just asking, why is it that the better players seem to understand that there's more to the meta?
Well, let me tell you, Crimson.
I also saw Kombat play Sub-Zero against
Crimson.
Sonic Fox Sindel. He couldn't even get a single
Tom.
combo. So if you're going to start referencing that, let's not forget all those matches too. All right.
Tom, let me say
So
this,
stop.
Tom.
Stop.
no,
Not a
saying
combo.
so
Not a
is
single
crazy.
combo. Not a
Guys,
single combo.
We gotta keep it civil. And
Stop.
We gotta keep it.
You would
short
think
term.
Sonic Fox
Let
was
me
playing
say this.
Aquaman. He couldn't be hit. Get out of here.
Let me say this, please. Crimson, I think you mentioned a valid point. But if I may, if Joker and Injustice 1 has a 90% life
Injustice
lead.
1.
Yes. Get that erection, bro. If he has a 90% life lead, he's even gonna outzone Zod. That point is almost look. The way I've been using Reiko and Tremor lately, if you command throw somebody twice and you got a 60% life lead, you're gonna outzone everybody. Like it doesn't matter who the hell you are. That's the point, but that doesn't mean anything. You're not controlling the here's how it works. You controlling the offensive damage output, and by design then it gives you the ability to play like lane. That's not what I call zoning. What the hell does that have to do with zoning? Ask Quan Chi. Here's what I expect. I'm full screen away, and I expect to dominate you if I'm gonna have these weaknesses. Whether it's any other character, but I don't. Why? Ice Armor, Motaro, bullshit Shazzy was using the other day when he beat me really bad. What the fuck does that have to do with zoning? I can't do anything. I have to like randomly teleport on him. Just to beat the stupid ass stance that he does. Like, what does that have to do with zoning? It has nothing to do with zoning. That Omni-Man said that literally parries are projected in the game. So there are nuances. I dare these people to do that shit with me when I use Freddy. Guess what? With Freddy, Spike, not a projectile. Go ahead and zone me. I have complete control. And that's what I'm talking about. That gameplay style, couldn't just say it, is no longer allowed to live. And you can say it was broken. Maybe it was. But that's the type of stuff I'm referring to. It's not like, yeah, I have 100% life lead, and yeah, I get to zone you. Of course, anybody can zone on it.
But I want people to understand what we're saying here. Quan Chi's normals and his frame, Tweety Bird made the best point. You look at a character's frame data, it's important. Quan Chi's frame data screams he's this mega zoner. So it's so impossible to get near him that when you do, he's got these incredibly ranged pokes, and his zoning is so strong that when you finally get on him, he should be screwed. But that's not true. But his frames say that's the case. The way he's designed say, well, they had to take these safeguards, right? And then when you get near, like, my God, he's got these 50-50s, so his launcher has to be 2 bars. Like, what do? You don't get near him at all. God help you. You can never approach him. So his normals have to be slow and highly negative, and because look at their range, and you cannot get near this character. And then when you finally get in, you're really screwed now, because then he 50-50s you. So we're going to put that. What? That is literally what the character's archetype says. He doesn't do any of that. He doesn't do any of that. You can always tell how a character is meant to be played by their frames. I'm a Sub-Zero player, for example. I look at Sub-Zero's frames and Johnny Cage's frames. My numbers say this is not a rushdown god. He should be played a different way. Quan Chi's frames and his moves and his normals, they say this is not a rushdown god. He's supposed to be played like this. And the reason why zoners or keep away characters traditionally have slow down ones, not super fast jabs, negative frames on their pokes, is because you are to be rewarded when you finally get near them. And that is how Quan Chi is designed in all of his numbers. So Rain is not built that way. Melina is not built that way. Her down one is, but at least it's 7 frames and it's got range. Tweety made a great point. Well, her down one is the same range as Quan Chi's. Why is her 7? And why is his so slow? I mean, like, it doesn't make any sense. So most of the characters are built, and you look at their numbers, they play the way their numbers are telling you they play. Then there's Quan Chi. And all I'm saying, Krim, is the reason, I'm just answering your question, the reason why some of those characters can have some success where other characters like this won't. And I understand what you're saying, Krim. Well, you're talking about 1 to 3 characters at most. And I don't disagree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you here. But the reason why those characters, I'm just tired of hearing, nobody knows. Nobody knows this. Nobody knows? Look. So every other character in this game can be figured out like this, but Quan Chi, might take a year to figure that one out, which my stream chat is too stupid to even understand that, I mean, like, what is this, rocket science? You got a character that wins by doing Storm Cell into Kano over and over and over again, and you think this is the world's hardest game. What the hell are you guys watching? It just doesn't, there are just some characters that don't make any sense. What NetherRealm should do is make them all do what they're supposed to do, then see how they play, and then make a decision. How can you make a decision on Quan Chi? He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do what he's supposed to do. How can you know what to buff? How can you know what to change? He's at a spot where there's no possible way. Maybe we just have to take a shot in the dark and say, okay, let's just do this and see how he goes. Then just make them tools do what they're supposed to do. If you make his numbers this bad, you make him a power zoner. If you don't want to make him a power zoner, don't make his numbers this bad. You don't want him to have 50-50s? Make his boots a mid. Or make his low a mid. Problem solved. Now it's a 1-bar launcher. Problem solved. Problem solved. It just...
I don't see that happening, but I think we're kind of rotating the argument.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with you, Krim. You make a good, yes, it's few and far between. Most of the characters do what they need to do, and the player can elevate them. I don't disagree with you. On that point, you're right. I disagree in the logic that that all the characters are that way, and we just don't know it yet.
Well, let's give.
Well,
Crimson is
to be fair,
taking a hit here. Let's give him the final word, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Go ahead.
To be fair, Tom, I don't think anyone said that. I mean, we just talked a podcast ago about.
Oh, maybe I mistook
stuff,
your point
so.
then, which is also possible.
Yeah, but my point wasn't to say that it's not a character-based point. It's an overall meta-based point about the play styles that work in this game. But you're right. Like, no one is saying Sub doesn't need buffs or Reptile doesn't need buffs or whatever. I think there are actually some things that we agree on in the midst of the disagreement.
Well, we're gonna keep the conversation going. Franco, please go ahead. Do you have something to add?
I do want to highlight one of Tom's points. I think instead of assuming a character is going to be too strong and just releasing them like with these restrictions, I think they should just let that character, like, they should just design the character how they want to and just let it in the wild. Like, you know, they clearly had a anti-zoning approach with Omni-Man, and they definitely succeeded. You know, he has Viltrumite stance and all those projectile immune properties and ways around zoning, but obviously you can tell they were overly cautious with Quan. And, you know, I'm just saying they should definitely just, instead of assuming a character is going to be too strong and limit them before release, they should just, you know, design them how they want to without those negative assumptions, and just, like Tom said, let the character live as they design them to be, and then make their decisions from there, instead of just releasing a character with these assumptions. And then we have this, like, dilemma we're in with Quan Chi.
Yeah, and for the record, I don't care if Quan Chi's his owner or not. If you want to make him a 50-50 character, then give him good 50-50s. And don't penalize him with a 2-bar launcher because it's a low. And he has an overhead in his string. If you want to make him his owner, then make him his owner. But don't do, well, mediocre here, bad here, put it together, and then sell it to us on a combat cast that he has a low combo starter, an overhead combo starter. Yeah, that's a good thing to tell us to get $7.99, and we'll just wait a year until you fix it. That's pretty much what it was. It's just like,
Well, let's wrap it up here. With all due respect to my co-hosts, and thank you guys so much for listening. We're gonna keep the conversation going on in the Twitch channel here. Um, it's been a very passionate debate, and that's what I love. You have different opinions, and please, guys, let us know what you think in the YouTube comments. I love to read them, whether it's negative or positive. It's always a pleasure. I want to thank my co-hosts Tom, Crimson, reoccurring guest rather, King Jr. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next episode of the podcast.
yeah, thanks for watching, listening, everybody. And we spiced it up this week. You guys have been in the comments saying, I missed the old podcast for Merry Christmas. You guys got a little taste of that. And we'll say,
You got the pre-patch time.
yeah, and now so we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening, everybody.
We promise we will not mention Quan Chi at all
Quan
next week.
is bad. Thank you so much for listening. Bye, everybody.
That's hilarious.